Welcome back, everyone, to our classroom called the College of Glycation. Once again, I'm Paul Reynolds, a biomedical scientist and professor of cell biology. And today we're addressing a topic that's fascinating, but also critically important to your everyday health. Our topic today is called the gut glycation connection, microbiome and ages. If you caught our previous episodes, you got the basics of glycation. Today, we're building on that foundation and zooming into how glycation messes with your gut, your microbiome, and your overall digestive health. We'll unpack a concept called leaky gut, inflammatory gut diseases, insulin resistance, and most importantly, how you can protect your gut from this molecular mayhem. So let's get started. All right, let's hit the rewind button first for a quick refresher on glycation. Because if you're new here or just need a memory jog, this is going to be the foundation. Glycation is what happens when sugar molecules like glucose or fructose stick to proteins, lipids, or DNA in your body, and it does so without the permission of an enzyme. And what that means is that this concept of glycation is a non-enzymatic rogue reaction that forms advanced glycation end products or AGEs. Think of AGEs as molecular graffiti. Once they are there, they don't just wash off easily. They accumulate in tissues, they mess up the works, and trigger inflammation and oxidative stress. This process starts with a sugar molecule glomming onto, say, a protein. And in the process, it forms an unstable molecule called a Schiff base. This Schiff base then morphs into an Amadori product. And after a series of chemical rearrangements, think of oxidation, dehydration, and so on, you'll end up with AGEs. These are irreversibly formed and they are big trouble. They're formed naturally in your body, especially when blood sugar is high, but they're also in your food. Think about fried, grilled, or processed stuff. These types of foods are loaded with AGEs. Why does this matter? Well, AGEs will bind to a special receptor called RAGE. That's the receptor for AGEs. And in the process, they will spark inflammation and oxidative stress. And they also cross-link proteins, making the tissues that those proteins are found within stiff and dysfunctional. In our last episode, we talked about how this contributes to diabetes, heart disease, and aging. Today, we will zero in on the gut because your digestive tract is ground zero for AGEs, both from the food that you eat, but also your body's own AGE production. Your gut is a marvel. It is a 30-foot long ecosystem that digests food, absorbs nutrients, and houses trillions of microbes that keep you humming along. But it's also the first stop for dietary AGEs, and it's uniquely vulnerable to them. When you eat age-rich foods, for instance, charred burgers or sugary pastries, your gut takes the first major hit. AGEs don't just pass through, they interact with the gut lining, the microbiome, and even the nervous system in your gut. So let's start with the gut lining. The intestinal epithelium is a single layer of cells held together by tight junctions, acting like a gatekeeper. AGEs, especially through RAGE signaling, can loosen these junctions, leading to what's called leaky gut. This is when the gut barrier gets permeable, letting in toxins and bacteria and undigested food particles into your bloodstream. There was a review published in 2023 in Nutrients, and that article found that AGEs increase intestinal permeability by disrupting tight junction proteins. These proteins are often referred to as occludin proteins, and zonula occludens 1 is the most common type. This sets the stage for systemic inflammation because your immune system doesn't take kindly to these invaders that get past the gut membrane. Now let's talk about the microbiome. Your gut microbes are like a bustling little city with many microbe species producing butyrate, a small, short-chain fatty acid that fuels gut cells and keeps your inflammation in check. But high-age diets throw this city into chaos. In 2022, in the journal Diabetes and Metabolic Syndrome and Obesity, researchers showed that mice fed age-rich diets lost their butyrate-producing bacteria, and that led to impaired gut barrier function and increased inflammation. Meanwhile, there are also troublemakers in this microbiome environment. For instance, Desulfovibrio is a type of microbe that thrives, which is linked to higher blood sugar and inflammation. This microbial shift from good bacteria to not so good bacteria isn't just a numerical game. Ages can alter the gut's metabolic pathways as well. That same study found that disrupted pathways like propanoate and amino sugar metabolism, which are both critical for your gut health, are also impaired. The result? A gut that is less resilient, more inflamed, and more likely to contribute to systemic problems. If leaky gut and microbiome chaos weren't bad enough, ages also worsen major inflammatory gut diseases like inflammatory bowel disease or IBD, which includes Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis. These conditions involve chronic inflammation, abdominal pain, and sometimes very debilitating symptoms. While the causes of irritable bowel disease are complex, genetics, environment, immune dysfunction all play a role, ages are now emerging as a key player. Just a few years ago, in 2023, in the journal called Nutrients, there was a review published that highlighted how ages and rage are highly expressed in the gut epithelium of irritable bowel disease patients. In diabetic rats, ages increased by up to 94% in the small intestine, which correlated with oxidative damage and reduced membrane fluidity. This suggests that ages don't just exacerbate or worsen IBD, they may also help drive it. By binding RAGE, ages ramp up reactive oxygen species, or ROS, and those are key components that damage gut tissue and provide fuel for rampant inflammation. This creates a vicious cycle, right? When you imagine inflammation that worsens leaky gut, which lets in more ages and toxins, which then drives more inflammation. Now, beyond irritable bowel disease, ages are also implicated in other gut disorders like irritable bowel syndrome or IBS, and even colorectal cancer. In 2021, there was a study published in the Experimental and Molecular Medicine Journal, and researchers in that case noted that ages promote inflammation and cell death or apoptosis, contributing to gut-related cancers. So what's the main takeaway here? Well, ages aren't just a gut irritant, they're also a catalyst for serious disease. So let's connect the dots to a concept we've talked about in the past known as insulin resistance, because insulin resistance is a major driver of glycation and gut dysfunction. Insulin resistance is when your cells stop responding to the hormone insulin. That hormone is in charge of shuttling glucose into cells and therefore lowering blood sugar levels. Blood sugar levels in this case, when you're insulin resistant, stays high and your pancreas pumps out even more insulin to compensate. This is a problem because chronically high blood sugar accelerates glycation, producing more ages. It's like pouring gasoline on a fire. In the gut, insulin resistance and ages form a nasty feedback loop. A few years ago, in 2022, there was a study published in Diabetes, Metabolic Syndrome, and Obesity. I've mentioned this one before. These researchers found that high age diets in mice spiked blood glucose insulin, as well as HOMA-IR. That's a measure for insulin resistance. This wasn't just a blood sugar issue, the researchers contend. It reshaped the gut microbiome. It reduced butyrate producers and increased gut permeability. The result? Systemic inflammation that worsens insulin resistance, which then fuels even more age formation, making the problem much more problematic. Now, why is this a big deal? Well, insulin resistance isn't just about diabetes, which many of you are thinking. It's linked to obesity, heart disease, and even Alzheimer's disease. In the gut, it amplifies age-related damage, making leaky gut and inflammatory diseases much worse. Uncontrolled blood sugar is like a wrecking ball, and your gut is right in its path. All right, enough about this doom and gloom. Let's now talk about some solutions. The good news is that you can protect your gut from ages and their fallout. Here are some evidence-based strategies grounded in science that keep your gut humming well. The first is to cut back on dietary ages. The biggest source of ages is processed, high-heat cooked foods. A 2023 article in Food Chemistry suggested that using low age cooking methods like boiling, poaching, and steaming instead of frying or grilling is advantageous. Swap that overcharred steak for a poached chicken breast potentially. It's not as appetizing for some, but your gut will thank you. Also, limit sugary processed foods. These are like the sodas, the pastries, and the like, because they are major age factories. The second thing that you can do is to boost your microbiome. Feed your gut microbes what they love, fiber. Plant-based solutions that are high in fiber, like vegetables, legumes, those types of things, promote butyrate producing bacteria. You should not survive on those alone, but they are helpful. A 2023 article in the International Journal of Molecular Medicine found that diets rich in prebiotics, like inulin from chicory root, etc., can counter age-induced dysbiosis, meaning problems in your biome. Probiotics, like those in fermented foods, imagine yogurts, kefir, and sauerkraut, can also help. Just don't expect miracles from a single cup of yogurt. That can be a problem. Consistency is the key when you consider these types of fermented foods. The third thing that you can do is to better control blood sugar. Keeping blood sugar in check reduces endogenous age formation. And what I mean to say there is the ages that you make in the body, not the ages that you ingest. Several years ago, in 2014, there was an article in the BMC Endocrine Disorders Journal, and that study showed that prebiotic supplementation improved insulin sensitivity and reduced age markers in pre-diabetic adults. So focus on low glycemic foods, leafy greens, nuts, proteins, and fats, and avoid sugar spikes. Exercise is also a game changer. Even a brisk 30-minute walk daily can improve your insulin sensitivity. Next, let's talk about antioxidants and anti-glycation compounds. Some compounds can block age formation or neutralize their effects. Just last year, in 2024, an article published in the Biophysical Reviews highlighted that antioxidants like vitamin C and polyphenols, those are found in berries, green tea, and dark chocolate, can inhibit somewhat glycation. There's also interest in deglycases. Those are enzymes that might break down AGEs. Your liver uses these, though they're not yet mainstream. For now, load up on colorful fruits and vegetables. The next thing you can do is better manage your inflammation. This will help your gut as well. Because AGEs fuel inflammation, calming your system is crucial. One of the best things that I enjoy is partaking in omega-3 fatty acids. This comes from fish or flaxseed, and curcumin from turmeric have anti-inflammatory effects. And that was shown in 2021, among other times, in an article published in Molecular Nutrition and Food Research. That's in 2021. There was a review that noted reducing dietary AGEs lowered inflammatory markers like interleukin 6, an inflammatory cytokine, and C-reactive protein, or CRP. That is a systemic marker of inflammation. Stress management through meditation or better sleep will also help you because chronic stress amps up inflammation. Let's address that as well. Now, these strategies aren't just about your gut, they're about your whole body. But reducing AGEs, supporting your microbiome in the process, and controlling blood sugar, you don't just dodge gut issues, you're also building a fortress against all types of metabolic diseases. So, what we have learned here today is that glycation through AGEs is a silent saboteur in your gut. It weakens your gut barrier, it disrupts your microbiome, and fuels inflammatory diseases like irritable bowel disease and others. And it teams up with insulin resistance to make everything worse. But please know you are not powerless. By tweaking your diet, prioritizing fiber, and controlling blood sugar, you'll embrace anti-inflammatory habits and you can fight back. The science is clear. Your gut is the gateway to your health, and protecting it from AGEs is non-negotiable. Next time you're eyeing that excessively fried food or sugary donut, think about the molecular graffiti that those foods spray throughout your gut. Choose smarter, eat cleaner, and move your body. Your microbiome and your future self will, in fact, thank you. And finally, as always, stay curious. Keep learning about your metabolic health because knowledge can prepare you to better take care of your gut and your metabolism. Thanks so much for joining me today. I'll see you next time. Remember, stay sharp and stay healthy.